guys, I'm Kent and welcome back to my channel. So last week I went to Impaktech and spent some time at their facility checking out their manufacturing process, and also installed their 12-bar setup as well as the easy pull clutch lever. I've been practicing my clutch ups. I still have a long way to go there, but now that I have some time, I'm also going to install the rear sets. So this is a rear set slash crash cage because it has quite a bit of protection for the bike. It has the Delrin pucks at the end, which are replaceable. So in a crash, if you scratch these down, there's just a bolt that you can back out and get the new ones in. Anyway, it provides quite a bit of protection again for the bike, which gives me that added confidence in riding around that if I drop the bike or loop it, that I'm not going to do too much damage and it won't be too much work to get the bike back in order. From Impaktech, you can get it either in a raw finish or in an anodized black. The powder coating was something special that they did for me, but if you want to powder coat your set, order it in the raw finish, and then you can take it to your powder coater to get it any color that you like. I also want to mention, since I have the Tyga exhaust back on the bike, I was doing some dyno testing yesterday, but it actually fits just fine with the 12 bar. So the 12 bar slash subcage has these adjustable rear pegs, and in the last video Juan was explaining how it has this flower shape, so it fits in positions where if you come down hard on a trick, it's not going to slip off. Worst case, if it breaks one of the pieces of the flower, the others are going to catch it. So a very strong and clever design. The cool thing though is it supports having this high mount exhaust. So there's a few positions where it wouldn't fit. It can go as far forward as this position before it hits the exhaust, and then it can do all of these positions until I think this is the furthest one down, although this one actually gets pretty close to it. Powder coating melts at a very high temperature, so I think it's okay, but since I'm not really using these rear pegs at this point anyway, I think I'll keep it in a position like this, which has perfect clearance for the exhaust, and none of the gases are coming out hitting any part of the 12 bar. Also, if you plan on retaining the rear brake light when you depress the rear brake and streeting this bike, you need to use a rear pressure brake switch. So this actually goes into the rear brake line, and when you depress the brake, it puts pressure into this switch, which closes the electrical circuit to turn the light on. So as far as removing the rear sets, I'm going to start on the right side because this is where the nut is. There's two 8mm bolts that hold the rear master cylinder on, and those will mount in a similar position on the Impaktech rear sets. Then there's this 12mm bolt here, and this nut that I'll pull off. This rear set should come off. Then I'm going to use another bolt to chase the main bolt this direction so that I can pull off that rear set, and then I'll slot it back the other direction so that hopefully I don't have to do too much work in realigning the swing arm. Again, if I can chase the bolt one way quickly and then bring it back, I shouldn't have to get a jack or anything else under the bike. I believe this gets torqued back down to 40 foot-pounds. And I'm also going to use an 8mm box wrench to take off the two bolts holding the rear master cylinder. And I'm also going to take off the triangle because I need to get to the electrical connectors for the brake pressure switch. So the brake pressure switch, and again, we're not going to be reusing the stock one. It's got a little clasp here, and then it has two bullet connectors here. So I'm just going to cut off this electrical tape and pop these out. And then there's also this pin here that I need to unbend so that I can pull the pin out that's holding the plunger side of the master cylinder. And once the cotter pin's out, I think I can just see. There we go. All right, so the old rear set is off. I think the only thing that I need to transfer is the foot lever here. So there's a C-clip that I need to pull off to release. I don't think I'll be reusing the C-clip because it looks like the Impaktech uses a bolt to support that. So let me get my C-clip pliers and pop this off. All right, so I'm going to apply some grease to the brass fitting All right, so once that's tightened down, the spring here will attach to this part of the rear set so that it always has some spring pressure. And then this bracket goes here. The master cylinder will attach to these two holes, and the plunger side of the master cylinder will attach to the stock part of the lever. After we have that, it should just be bolting everything back on. This also has a provision for the stock exhaust. At this exact moment, I'm going to leave my Tyga exhaust on, so I'm going to remove this. But this is a neat provision in case you want to run an exhaust that requires the hanger off of the rear sets, just like the stock rear sets do. This is where I'm going to chase the swing arm rod with another rod going the other direction so that it's easy to get back. Also be mindful there's a little washer on both sides that go in between the rear sets and the swing arm. Here on the other side of the bike, the main swing arm axle came out when I chased it through the other side with the other rod that I had. There's a 12mm bolt here, and then just like the brake pedal on the right side, we'll need to transfer over the shifting pedal to the new rear sets. This side's a little easier because we don't have all of the master cylinder components. So on the left side, shifter linkage, same thing, use some C-clip pliers to pop off the C-clip. So same for this bushing, I'm going to load it with some grease. All right, so with the brake lever installed, we're going to get this set back onto the shift linkage. There's a little dot that lines up with the clamp so that you know where it goes. I'll set that there for now. Don't forget there's a washer that goes in between the rear sets and the swing arm. Yeah, that looks awesome. So the kit comes with new hardware for the bottom bolt. I'm going to put a little bit of blue Loctite on this and then torque this down to 25 foot-pounds. I'm actually taking off the triangle here because it's a pretty tight fit with a portion of the rear sets and the triangle. I may have to trim a little bit of the triangle, but I figured let me get the rear sets installed first and then I can figure out how the triangle fits. So now that I have the left side set up, I'm going to drive the swing arm axle back the other direction and we'll be able to install the right side. So now that the left side is done, we'll get the right side completed. We've got the swing arm axle here. Again, make sure you get that washer on. We've got the brake lever set up. We just need to put back the M6 bolts with an 8mm head onto the bracket of the Impaktech rear sets. These should torque down to 9 foot-pounds. Okay, so with the master cylinder connected to the bracket actually has these 4 pins that hold it to the main rear set. The only thing left to do is to get the master cylinder plunger side connected to this side of the pedal. And you do that with the little bolt or little rod that came from the stock setup and then a cotter pin to secure it on the other side. So I realized that I wasn't able to get the pin through the plunger while the rear set was attached to the brake arm. So I pulled the brake arm back off and I'm going to attach it to the plunger first, and then I'll reattach the brake arm to the rear set and get everything together. So I did have to make one small adjustment to the triangle to make it fit with these rear sets. I believe these rear sets work with all the generation Groms as well as the Monkeys, but there is a point where this part of the rear set lightly touches the triangles. So I cut a hole here. I measured where it was touching. I drilled a hole and then I just filed carefully until I got the exact profile that I needed to get everything to fit. And now you can actually barely see the hole. You need to be looking at the right angle to see it. Otherwise, it perfectly gets taken up by the space of the rear set that kind of sits inside of it now. Okay, so it's a day or two later. I actually ran into a problem because the pressure switch that I showed at the beginning of the video was an M10 by 1.0 thread, and I needed an M10 by 1.25 thread. So that's why I noted on the overlay that you need M10 by 1.25 for the Honda master cylinders. I know Brembo uses M10 by 1.0 on theirs, but anyway, this was from Amazon, so easy to return, and I'm going to get the correct one in. And I changed the plug to be bullet connectors just so that they directly plug back into the stock harness. And then I'm just going to get some electrical tape to put it back the way that it was, route this around here, and I'll get the triangle back on. All right, so this setup looks really sweet. My 12 bar is looking good. I've got the pegs up a little higher so that it clears the Tyga exhaust. Although again, I'm going to be pulling this off for a while I practice my clutch ups with the stock exhaust so that I can do it without bothering everybody while I'm making all that noise. The new rear sets though look fantastic. That blue really pops, particularly against the yellow. So a big thank you to Impaktech for letting me try out these products. They look absolutely fantastic. I still have another video coming that goes through their manufacturing process because they have a really neat line and some amazing equipment that puts these parts together. Anyway, looking forward to keep practicing my clutch ups. I plan on going back to their site here in a couple of weeks to get some more instruction from Juan and their team. And yeah, looking forward to riding this bike. So anyway, thank you everybody very much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos and keep on building.